So much love. What is it? 1 a.m.? 1 a.m. Thursday night. We're still here. You know what this is? It's a mindset of abundance. This says it doesn't matter if we go to sleep a little late. It doesn't matter if we have an extra drink or two. It's all going to be all right. Thank you guys so much for being here. Did you have a good time tonight? Oh, it was so much fun. I mean, I want to share some anecdotes from the stage. What can I tell you? So backstage, Rachel Maddow gave me like this mean side eye. No, it's all right. But tonight really was this culmination. When we first started campaigning, gosh, it's like over a year and a half ago, we thought to ourselves, you know, the goal would be to make this Democratic primary debate and then be able to make our case to the American people. And I had this vision then. The vision came true tonight. This vision was that people would turn on the TV and they'd say, who the heck is that? Yeah. They would just say, who the heck is that Asian man? And what is he talking about? And why does he seem to want to give everyone money? And those things happened tonight. And I have to say, like, on that level, just seeing that vision come to life tonight and being able to share that with you all gives me so much joy. I just want to thank you all for making it happen. Thank you. On the stage, thanks Don. I love Don's son. And so the beautiful thing is that there's tonight here in Miami with you all, which is this incredible benchmark. But then July 30th and 31st, the same thing's going to happen in Detroit, Michigan. I know we have some Detroit people here in the crowd. So then Detroit, Michigan, and then thanks to the Yang Gang, we are then going to be able to make the case in September and October when the field shrinks a ton. So the field is going to shrink from 24 and 20 people making the debates, and right now it's projecting that it's going to shrink to 10 by September. But you know who's going to be in the top 10? This guy! Yeah, so this is such like this incredible punctuation mark. We should certainly enjoy this time, but then projecting forward when the field shrinks, because you know when the field shrinks, I'm going to get some more airtime, and then more people are going to be paying attention and looking around, and as folks start to converge on different candidates, the Yang Gang is just going to grow, and it's going to be this very distinct flavor. You know, and tonight, I have to say, like, they didn't get as much of the flavor as I wanted, but there's a lot more flavor where that came from. I'm a fountain of flavor. And we're going to be able to get increased flavor capsules onto their TV screen, on the July debates, and on, and not just the July debates. You know, I'm on CNN this weekend. Like, we've got like all this media, because like, going to like this next level, thanks to Colbert, and then these debates, and then the rest of these things. I mean, shit, no one knew who the hell Andrew Yang was 18 months ago. And now, like, now I get recognized even when I'm incognito, which blew my mind. I was like, no one's gonna recognize an anonymous Asian man in a hoodie. You know, if I take off the blazer and the rest of it, like, no way. And then someone looks at my face and be like, you Andrew Yang? I'd be like, oh shit. And that's where we've come 18 months, but we're just gonna keep on growing and growing. And like that, this field as it constricts, it's going to be better and better for us, and I can't wait to keep on making history with you all. So I'd love to take some questions. We're in this intimate context. You can like ask whatever's on your mind.
Quick question, is the freedom dividend taxed?
So the freedom dividend itself would not be taxed, but it might end up pushing other income into a zone where it does get taxed, but the way marginal taxes work. But the freedom dividend itself is not taxed.
The reason I ask is double taxes. Once we get it, we got to pay taxes and we use that.
Oh yeah. So you get it, and then you maybe you pay taxes a little bit when you use it, depending on what you use it on. Yeah, it's gonna help a lot. Yeah, sure.
No tie. Excellent touch.
Oh yeah.
All right, what do you guys think about the no tie move? You know, I was glad not to have a tie on just because like I would have noticed the tie because I don't wear them that often, and so if you like had it on, you'd be like, but we reserved the right to wear a tie next time. And that was again one of the joys of having like 4 shots at it. We're gonna start with no tie, see what that does with the press, because we love messing with the press. We just love pushing a button and seeing what happens. And apparently Brian Williams was really offended at my sartorial choices tonight. And I say to you, Brian Williams, mind your own store. That was a bit of a knock. I don't know. It's probably very true. Yeah, question.
What was the favorite question that you were asked today?
You know, I had so few questions, and so one of them, you know, when I got asked about China, I was like, oh, should I make some China comment? It's like, oh, yeah, go to China. I see how this is.
You want to start a war, right?
So, you know, I had so few questions to choose from, but like I'm pleased that they gave me a chance to air out the universal basic income, and then I got to say that again, because again, the takeaway I wanted people to have is that this man wants to give you money, wants to give you $1,000 a month. It's going to be a big fix. And I think that message came across, and that made me very, very happy.
Your closing was awesome!
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. My closing was awesome. My closing was one of the times, you guys could probably tell, is like one of the times I actually felt comfortable, because I was like, okay, like I get this time, I know what I'm going to do with it, and then like I can knock it out of the park.
You did!
Thank you. And then like there are like aspects of the rest of the debate where it was like, you know, as you could tell, like a little bit jarring, just being watching the ping pong ball between like a few people, and you're just like, all right, that's going on, and then and there were also a few times, FYI, where I just started talking, being like, hey, I'd like to add something there, and my mic was like not on. Like it's the sort of thing where it's not like if you just start talking, like it all of a sudden like takes over the convo. It's like I was talking and like nothing was happening, and you're just like, oh fuck. So so that happened a bit too. Though I don't hate the entire media marginalization of Andrew Yang narrative that will now take hold. It's like not the worst thing in the world to happen to us. So it's like you know, it's like and the fact that we have these other bites of the apple. You know, make it so that like there are things that we can actually make some gravy out of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you not get to say tonight that you wanted to really get to say?
I mean, there's so many things, and you guys have actually heard me speak in various contexts, I'm sure, but I could talk for hours about stuff. I got like 106 policy ideas. But if there were a couple of big ideas that like I wish I'd had a chance to air out, really would to be talking about how $1,000 a month would help, like that waitress at a diner who's getting harassed by her boss, or the single mom who's stuck in a cramped apartment with an abusive boyfriend she can't walk away from, because $1,000 a month would be a difference maker for the people in those situations. The Democratic Party could actually improve people's lives on that level directly if we put our minds to it. Like that'd be an idea that I hopefully will get out in July. Yeah. Question here. Sure.
So in the next debates, do you think once you're answering, you could give a little more emotion? I would say the rest of the candidates gave a lot of emotion in their responses, and I think your substance qualifies for even more emotion, so it can resonate more with people. Do you think
That's beautiful, man. We didn't hear him. What he said is your substance is like emotional, and that makes me so happy. You know, I actually had I had some like stuff that I could have thrown in about like I mean, it's like, you know, one of the goals is to mainstream the values of this campaign, and then at some point humanize ourselves to a higher degree. It's like I joke that we're starting with the head, and then we're going to move to other body parts over time.
Did you say
But
that?
thank you, man. That makes me very happy that you think our substance is emotional. That makes me really like appreciative.
Yes.
Yes.
What would you say is your biggest
I think the biggest policy I'd have that's not the freedom dividend would be to redefine our economic measurements to include mental health and life expectancy and income affordability and clean air and water and like, because if you change the framing, then you change everything. And if we keep worshiping the wrong measurements, then we're just going to fall them off a cliff. And so it's like a profound, and like it would filter to everything. If you said it's like, oh, economic progress actually like is measured by whether or not like convicts can be reintegrated into society, or like things like that would be core. So that's like a big idea that is not the freedom dividend that I think would be a huge difference maker. Yes, women among us. I'm calling a bunch of dudes. And we got like a. Oh yeah, I should think.
So next debate.
Use this one.
So next debate, some issues you're passionate about, like climate change. When they ask other questions, you should jump in to answer the question.
No, I agree, and like again, like there were times when I was like, hey, I wanted to make a contribution to climate change or education or other things, and like my mic didn't work. Like your mic's actually not on, and so I would just start talking, and then like the moderators would just like ignore and doesn't matter. So the moderators have a fair amount of power and authority, including someone in production is like turning on a mic or not. So there is like so I agree with you that like I should be interjecting and making more contributions, and I'll certainly look to do that in the next debate. But there were at least a few times where I tried to do that tonight where I quite literally felt somewhat yeah, it's like sort of mechanically restricted, shall you say? Yes.
So I wanted to say just thank you for everything you've done for this platform. Thank you for inspiring hope. Thank you for absolutely everything. I know you're an absolutely amazing debater, and you did show tonight, even if they only gave you so much time. Seeing the other candidates and how they kind of bicker and spend a lot of the time on the floor with each other, how can... Sorry, I'm so nervous. I'm wondering what your views on that are and what your response is and how we can move forward from that, because I don't think it's setting a good example for the students of America to see that example of debating in politics. And so I'm wondering just, sorry.
No, that's so kind. There was like one website that like that decided I won the debate, which seems like very unlikely given that I had such like low, you know. I mean, maybe it was like very high substance to word ratio. It was like a saying we used to use. And I agree with you that like the tenor of that debate is probably not optimal for people to say it's like this is the way that our leadership is defined. And so I would like to see different formats over time, but like that, you know, we have these media companies and these journalists. So one of the things I've discovered over the last number of months, like the limitations of cable news in particular, and in many ways these debates are like cable news is spread out.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, how does cable news function? It's like very, very fast interviews where you just feel like blah 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 blah. Here's an you know, and I've now done a dozen or more, like 20 of these things. You know, you go in and it's like an assembly line. And then like this debate format is essentially like an assembly line again.
On steroids.
And it's like spread out among the various candidates. And like, as you can tell, like I'm not as natural like an assembly line participant as some of the other folks. And I, you know, and part of it is like, well, if I'm going to be an assembly line, I should probably become like better at the assembly line, which is something that, you know, like I'm very excited to do. But then there's part of it, it's like, hey, why are we using the assembly line in this way? So the goal is that as this field shrinks, then hopefully you can expand. Though I'm very aware of the fact that our campaign would not be where it is today if not for people listening to literally like 2-hour conversations or like hour conversations, like 90-minute conversations, or even reading a fucking book. You know, so like that, so like, you know, I know that that's like been in many ways like the way that this campaign has come about. And then in a way it's like, how do you translate that substance into the assembly line? You know, and that is a challenge that we will overcome together. And I confess that like tonight highlighted the extremity of that challenge in a way that I had not even understood. And I feel like I'm pretty savvy, so most of the time I'm like, okay, I get it. But like this time was like a whole another level. It's like, how do you translate it into such like an incredibly brief window? Thank you. That's a great question. Yeah, coming up.
Hi. What policies do you have that you think would attract more women to your campaign, or would you like us to be sharing with others?
Also, thank you for the question. So, you know, and I'll just use my wife as like the reference point here. So if you think about women's issues, like a lot of them, I think most of us here would agree on. It's like around reproductive rights, paid family leave, like equal pay for equal work. But there's like the truth is that women do the vast majority of the unrecognized, uncompensated work in homes and communities every day. And then when you look at economic arguments, the Democratic Party just goes to higher minimum wage. And one of the things I would say is like higher minimum wage does nothing for my wife who's at home with our 2 boys, one of whom is autistic. And so like we have to take women's rights to include rewarding and recognizing all of the work that is being done in our homes and communities every day that we know women are doing. And that's not minimum wage, it's just putting money into people's hands and saying that this is all work. That, caregiving is work, parenting is work. Obviously, if you're taking care of an ailing loved one, it's something like the most brutal, isolating, difficult work of all. And so the goal is that women see that economic resources in everyone's hands actually is an incredibly empowering thing for women in particular, because we know that women get marginalized in the workforce and harassed, and if we put this money into people's hands, into women's hands, then women will be able to improve their situations, like the waitress at the diner who's getting harassed by her boss. She's getting $1,000 a month. She can be like, keep your hands to yourself, asshole. I'm doing this job, and I'm not gonna start for it. It's what other policy can we pass that's gonna make that boss keep his hands to himself? Except by putting money into the woman's hands, and she can tell him to fuck off without fearing for her own survival. All right. My man Zach says this is the last question. I'm going to take selfies. We're going to hang out, and I'd love to meet you all. And so I think there's a woman waving the American flag, which makes me. Is a young question? Oh yes, yeah, coming up.
Coming right through, guys. I apologize. Let's go right in here.
I am Samir Zakir's friend. So, high five. Woo! I'm the LA contingent. So first of all, we brought a bunch of these hats for you and for everybody, because Ride TV, it's an equestrian TV channel, equine therapy, equine sports, and this is for you, Andrew. And a bunch of you guys get it. But we think you rock, first of all. Samir is a huge supporter, we're a huge supporter. I've got David Grossman, and we love you. We know how smart you are. We know that you are a candidate of the, of the people. You've got this amazing integrity. You might have talked about this before I just got here, because I got here. You talked a little bit about your $1,000 initiative, and you're the math candidate. I don't know if you talked about that earlier tonight. All right. Well, I just want to say that we are here for you, and we are going to be your grassroots people all over the country. All right? No, but wait. I want to end with one question, because there were some amazing questions, and we know that, you are, we loved your succinctness on your questions that you did answer, because you just get to the point. You weren't BS, right? You got to the point. So I would love to know, and I know they talked about the question on what would you do to support women, but, what is your position? What would you do on your first day as President of the United States, President Yang?
Support women? No, in general. Oh, just in general. I said it earlier tonight. I just gotta secure that bag and get people $1,000 a month. Because that's gonna be the biggest game changer we can actually make happen for the American people. It's we put economic resource into your hands. You can solve your own problems. The best thing we can do. Everything else we're talking about is not as good. And the great thing is, cash is very, very hard to demonize. It's like, oh, that cash is gonna hurt you. It's like, no, it's not. It's bipartisan. Republicans like it, conservatives like it, libertarians like it, independents like it, Democrats and progressives like it. There's no reason we can't make this happen. Cash is the answer. Everyone knows that after I'm president in 2021, it's all going to be all because of the freedom dividend. Yeah. And so the first thing we're going to do is they're going to go to Congress and say, hey guys, it's time. Let's make this dividend happen. And then the magic will descend from the great printer in the sky. And it'll improve our lives, make stronger, healthier, and then we'll be like, holy crap, we did it, Yang Gang, we did it. Hey guys, I want to introduce Zach, my campaign manager. You probably have seen him in our stuff, right?
Yeah, I'm the guy in the background. Hi everyone, thank you for being